Hello, this is Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist. Welcome to my channel, Lifting As We Climb Consulting Wellness Services, where we focus on supporting the healing of us individually and collectively. Thank you for tuning in. We have been having conversations talking about ways to support Black women in toxic work environments because we know, unfortunately, that Black women have higher rates of experiencing toxic workplaces, so that we are able to talk about these experiences so that we are not silenced, because we know that silencing is a form of oppression. Also, we know that it's important to know that we're not alone in having these experiences, because many times when we have these experiences, we feel like we're the only one or we're suffering in silence. And so we're providing an opportunity to talk about these different experiences. And again, this is across profession, this is across the world, actually, that we are hearing Black women talk about these different experiences. And so I initially started to do this just for the month of October for anti-bullying prevention month. But so many Black women have come to me and have expressed, their concerns about, being bullied and what to do about it. And so many women have reached out to me to say, hello, Ebony, good afternoon, have reached out to me to ask for me to continue these conversations. I've also mentioned that some Black men have also reached out to me and have said, well, what about us? Can you include conversations about Black men? And again, I'm not discounting the experiences of Black men. I understand this happens with Black men as well, but I'm speaking from the perspective as a Black woman because I've had these experiences as well. And so that's why I'm focusing on Black women. My hope is that conversations and provide a platform, but I can't speak on the perspective in terms of what Black men have gone through. So we are having our guest today, Miss Nancy. Hello, Nancy. How are you?
I am doing well, Kamani. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy to see you today. So I was just giving just a brief overview in terms of why we're having these discussions. And Nancy, I've known you, for a little bit, right? And so I told you about the work that I was doing, and I know that you've talked about different toxic work experiences that you've had. And so I thought it would be very enlightening for you to share with the audience about a toxic work experience you've had and how it impacted you.
Oh, wow. Just one in particular?
Well,
um,
first introduce yourself.
well, my name is Nancy Fitzpatrick. I am with When It's Trauma. I am a SAMHSA approved project director and trauma awareness trainer. So I am also a childhood trauma survivor. I am the mother of childhood trauma survivors as well. We live in South Central Alabama. It's what we call home. And I have been in the program service provision industry for quite a while. I serve the homeless population. Those who suffer with trauma and mental illness are a very important population to me. So that's just a brief overview.
Overview of so much you do. So
Yes,
much you do.
absolutely.
Yes. And Nancy, that comment that you made in terms of, wow, which one, like referencing which traumatic or which toxic, work environments. And it is a traumatic, it is a type of trauma, right?
It really
And
is.
so it's, really noteworthy that you said that because it really highlights that many of us not just one toxic work environments, but many toxic work experiences. So if you can share maybe one that really stands out to you in terms of what happened and what was the impact that it had on you.
Wow. Well, you're so right. There are definitely more than one, unfortunately. But
Mhm.
what I also do connected to this particular experience is I write and manage government grants to
Hmm.
include federal, state, and local grants. And in this one position, I'm really meticulous, because you have to be, when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to the guidelines, because you will go to prison. You will go
Ooh,
to federal prison for not being honest. Even if it's an
right.
oversight or missing something, if it's something
Yeah.
that you are just not getting right,
Mm-hmm.
you can suffer consequences. So with this one particular job, I was reporting to a board of directors.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came into the position, I was the first Black executive director of this particular organization. And when I came into the position, there were some things, because guidance had shifted, and there were some things that needed to be done differently.
Mm-hmm.
And Lord, I was the one to let the board know that some things needed to change. And um, I got a lot of pushback, even
Mm-hmm.
though I was giving them the Code of Federal Regulations, the guidance
Right.
straight out of the law. I
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of pushback. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the fact that you said it's not being done right. I said, well, how would you like for me to say it? I'm not really sure.
It
Um,
wasn't like you were making it up. You were just sharing the information, right?
Absolutely. They
Uh-huh.
raked me over the coals, and it wasn't in a, we just need to be sure that
Mm-hmm.
you're doing the right thing. I would have
Mm-hmm.
respected that and appreciated
Right.
it, because it would have given me an extra layer of making sure I was doing the right thing. They
Right.
picked me apart, to the point where it became very stressful for me every time we had a board meeting. Well, I don't like
Mm-hmm.
the way you said that. Well, I don't like, it was this, it was that. And I've always prided myself on being a professional. But
Mm-hmm.
it was, and I found out later, it was because there were a couple of consultants on the board who were
Mm-hmm.
using the old information. And so they took it
Uh,
as a direct challenge.
hmm.
I've worked for, um, bosses who really didn't know a whole lot about the work that I was doing in my particular
Mm-hmm.
position. And that's fine with me. You don't have to know. You pay me to know. But if you're
Right.
going to pay me to know, then don't second guess everything I said.
Right.
It was almost gaslighting in a way. Like, even if
It was
I
not only
showed, right.
Yeah, it was not only challenging what you said, it was how you said it. So it's like that
Yeah.
tone police thing. Like, we don't appreciate how you said it. Like, you have to like cow down or watch your tone. And a lot of times for Black women, we are so mindful of our tone because we know that people have this
Exactly.
stereotype about us. So then we go up and above, right?
Mhm.
To really watch how
Exactly.
we're saying something. So then when somebody says, watch your tone, you're thinking, what are you talking about? I haven't
Right.
watched my tone. Yeah.
Right. It was a very hard place to be. It
Mm,
affected my health, because I wanted to then go back and make sure, well, and I began to scratch my head like, am I crazy? Am I not reading what I thought I've read? Like, oh my God,
hmm.
I've sat at that desk from 8 a.m. to the next day at 10 a.m., getting work done, double checking, rechecking, and it really impacted my health so much
Yeah.
so to my doctor used to sit down with me at my doctor's appointments and just look at me, and she said, I don't know how many times I have to tell you, it's stress, and if you don't change your lifestyle, you're going to regret it. You're going to do some irreparable damage to your health. um,
Wow.
I had to leave a job that I really loved. And
Hmm.
despite the issues that I went through with that particular governing body, I really
Hmm.
enjoyed working with the case managers, working with the
Hmm.
population that we served. And I
Hmm.
had to leave a job that I really loved doing for the sake of my health, because
Wow.
and here's the crazy part.
Uh-huh.
When I told them I was leaving, when I submitted my resignation, they
Uh-huh.
offered me a raise to stay. And I was
What?
just like, wait, me? The one you're second guessing all the time?
Right. Right.
And the sad part about that is only to leave and go to another job that was an even more toxic work environment. Um,
Yikes. Wait, Nancy, can I
Yeah.
stop you for a second? Can I
Yeah.
stop you for a second? So, just in terms of when you were going through that experience, on some level, you knew it was ridiculous, right? But that's the gaslighting, how it messes with us and makes us think, did I do something wrong? Did I misinterpret it?
Right.
So then you spent extra time trying to prove and trying to show, but it was taking a toll on your health. To your point, your doctor was like, look, this is not healthy for you. So you
Right.
make a choice between this job or your health. And no job is worth your health.
It's
No job
not.
is worth your health. Yeah, and you were like, I'm done. And so then I guess they thought they were going to what? Dangle a carrot in front of you, give you a raise. You know what I'm saying? And so I think a lot of times people get trapped into that, right? So I call it like the golden handcuffs. Like you feel
Mm.
tied to certain jobs because of the financial connection, but
Right.
it's
Right.
not worth
Right.
it. It's not worth it. So Nancy, so then you go from that job to a worse toxic environment?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Ooh.
The job that I went to, that's the job where I became the project director of this particular federal funded site, or for
Mm-hmm.
what this federally funded project was. And the director that was over me came from a completely different firm. I'm not really sure why they thought she was a good fit. She did not know programs at all, and
Mm-hmm.
she took the fact that she didn't really know programs.
Mm-hmm.
That affected her. It made her really insecure, because here all these
Um,
people are that know something that I don't know.
right.
But aren't you supposed to hire people who are smarter about their job than you are? I mean, I don't
You would think so,
understand that.
right?
You
You
would
would
think
think so.
so.
Hmm.
Very toxic work environment. She used to pit the different people against each other. And there was this one young Black girl, and this was my heartbreak for this particular position. I had
Hmm.
handpicked her to be the supervisor under my project,
Okay.
because she was just really good. And I
Hmm.
told her, she was a young Black girl. I told her, I said, let me tell you something. I've been here before,
Hmm.
not in this particular organization, but I've been in this
Hmm.
situation before. I
Yes.
can tell you
Yes.
what's going to happen. They're going to try to pit us against one another.
Ooh.
Watch out. Whatever you do, no matter how we feel about
So the
each
whole
other,
divide and
don't,
conquer.
yes, don't fall for it. And she came to me not long after that, and she said, you were so right. They said this, they said that, they said the other. Oh my God, I can't believe it. But they eventually sucked her in. They
Oh
really did.
no.
And that broke my heart. It really did.
Yeah.
I noticed the shift in her behavior. And after a while, it just became too unbearable. Just if I'm already working like 6, 7 days a week in here
Uh-uh.
until 8 o'clock at night,
Mm-mm.
trying to make sure that a program that was in complete chaos when I came on board now is
Mm-hmm.
straight. Our evaluations, our reporting, everything is pristine.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done so much work in other people's jobs as well to make sure that I
Wow.
get a result. That's all that mattered to me, because that's my
Right.
career and that's my professional reputation.
Yes.
Um, and so I get the result, and it almost made them feel like, well, who does she think she? That's the way that
Okay.
they were kind of coming at me, and
Yeah.
they just continued to try to pit us against one another. I completely shut down when it came to that. I just did my job,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and I
But you were
finally,
trying to do your job and they were undermining you, right? And there were
absolutely,
like attempts to have you fail, right? So you talked about this other person who was a supervisor who was so insecure that she would talk about other people. So really poor boundaries.
yeah.
And so that always tells us about a toxic
Mhm.
person in a toxic work environment. It's when you start pitting people in the workplace against one another. I know I have definitely experienced that.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, why would a supervisor do that? Like that is not healthy for productivity or anything else. And so you started to experience that. And then the heartbreak of another Black woman who you reached out to and told her from the jump, hey, this is what they're going to do. Right.
Mhm.
And to see her fall into that. So that goes into an episode I had before about all skin folk and kinfolk,
All of
right?
them.
So even though she's Black, you were hoping some type of sisterhood with her, and then she just went for whatever they might have been giving her, whatever, right? But it wasn't even worth it. And
It
so you,
wasn't.
yeah, and tell us the impact that it had on you this second job. What impact did that have on you?
Um, it further impacted my health. I was already having issues with that because of the last position,
Yeah.
keeping really long hours.
Mm,
Also, my children, my family needed me, and I sacrificed because I'm always gonna do my job, right? Because I have to. If
right,
we don't perform or overperform or
right,
overachieve, then our value goes to them.
right,
Um,
right.
so
And
it
guess
was.
what? Guess what, Nancy? You talked about the supervisor wasn't even qualified, right?
Mhm.
But as Black women, when we come into these jobs, we're often overqualified, right?
Absolutely, we have
So
to
it's
be.
like, it makes no sense.
We
Yes.
have to be. And I think the other thing that was discouraging was that no Black woman who was not qualified would have gotten the position like this white woman did.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, if we were causing so much discord in the staff, people were
Hmm.
reporting her to the board right and left. We would not be there any longer.
Oh, no,
However, she
not at
still
all.
is
Wow.
terrorizing people,
Ooh,
damaging community relationships with the organization, a very important organization in this state as it relates to
mm,
the particular community that they serve. It's
mm.
very disheartening to watch it continue to fall under the
Yes,
charge of this
yes,
person. Um,
yes.
but like I
It's
said,
disheartening and it's also confusing, right? Because
Mhm.
your experience sounds so much like mine. I see somebody else in the chat. Lord, I've lived this, right? So it's so similar that these bullies, these workplace bullies, run amok, right? And other people see them because they don't just target one person. They do this toxicity kind of goes on to so many other people. They target people, they pit people against each other, and they create a toxic work environment.
I do.
And you know that other people see this.
You
So,
know
what are
it.
your thoughts about why that is? Why is it that these people are allowed to just keep doing this and other people who are in higher positions allow for this to happen? Why do you
I
think
think
that?
I think if it's a Black woman, it's easier to get a consensus on let's get rid of this person for one reason or another. I think if
Ah,
it's a white person, then it is, unfortunately, all white people are not like this. Well, fortunately, all white people are not like this, but unfortunately, when it's a white person, it's a little bit harder to get a consensus on the fact that we need to get rid of this person and move forward. We are not
mm,
protected. Black women
right,
are not protected. People will look the other way when we're mistreated. We don't have people who will rally for us. We don't have people who will defend us and say, you're
right,
mistreating this person. You will not, this is not okay.
right,
And even people who agree that it's not okay are afraid to be the one to stand up because they feel like they will be ostracized and be alone in defending you. And
right.
so we have to fight
So they
so
just leave you out
hard
there.
for
They just leave you out
ourselves.
there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just want to say, Nancy, too, that, and I don't know if it's also in terms of like region of the country, right? So you're in the South and I'm in California, right? So you're in Alabama, right?
For now.
Okay, for now, temporarily. So you're in
Uh-huh.
Alabama, and so I think the demographic is a little different, right? So in terms of us thinking about white supremacy, that it's not just white people who are acting this way, right? So many times in California, it's not only white people, it's other people who might be engaging in these white supremacist practices. So the people that I'm talking about, a lot of them weren't white, right?
Mm.
But still the same type of dynamic. And so I just want
Oh
the
yeah.
audience to know that you don't have to just be white to engage in this type of behavior, this type of bullying, toxic experiences, right? So
Oh
you're
yeah.
saying that you feel that people who are not Black are extended a certain level of grace that Black people are not.
I agree with that. And also, everywhere, white supremacist ideals and practices are adopted by a lot of people. There
Yes,
are Black people here who go along with it to get along. That
yes,
Nancy, she's a troublemaker. And then there are Black people who will get on board with that because they don't want to
hmm,
be ostracized. If all Black people stuck together against white
yes,
supremacy, we would be
yes,
in a better world. Um,
absolutely,
and
absolutely.
the sad, I expect white racist people, and I really want to differentiate between white racist and white non-racist. All white
Hmm,
people are not racist, but
hmm,
white racist people,
hmm,
they they're always going to kind of rally. They understand their strength is in numbers. And so they're
uh-huh,
going to rally. They're going to try to separate, divide, and conquer. And I
yeah,
expect them to be who they are. I think my
yeah,
expectation is with other Black people, I really
yeah,
expect them to see and to not stand for this, or at least to not cooperate. I'm not asking you to
right,
storm City Hall with me. I'm just
right,
asking you to not cooperate or be complicit
yes,
with with
yes.
them planning my downfall. That's
Exactly. And what's so crazy, Nancy, is that many of us know better. Like we've seen this happen to other people in our family, friends, like we've seen or experienced it ourselves. And so when we fall into those same traps, it's really confusing. And I saw a comment in the chat. It's like that slave mentality.
it
So that
is.
goes back to what Dr. Joy DeGruy was talking about,
Mm-hmm.
post-traumatic slave syndrome. So
Yes.
that residual divide and conquer, those issues that we had in slavery, it's
Mm-hmm.
still in our brain. It still functions in terms of how we act. And so also we think about, she talks about Stevens and Stephanie, in terms
Mm-hmm.
of, the house person,
Yes.
really being aligned to the slave master, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
overseer, and more aligned with them than other Black people. And so there are Stevens and Stephanies amongst us. And so it's hard for us to like, what? Like that person too? But just because somebody's Black, we know that we can't automatically trust them, which is very painful too,
Yeah.
right? It's like a sellout for, like, what are you selling yourself out for? You're not really getting something,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the fear a lot of times. Like, well, there can only be one or a few of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I want that promotion, I want that raise, or I don't want to lose my job. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's very fear based and it's very selfish. So it's not looking at the community and really helping each other out. And
Yeah.
so for you, Nancy, you have gone through these experiences, it's impacted your health. You were like, I'm done with all of this, right? It's not
Absolutely.
worth it. And then also feeling like, man, like my family is not getting the best of me too. I'm not fully present for them. Can you tell us a little bit about that too?
That's yes. That's a hard place. Because I see the fallout of me not being as present as I should have been for my children when
Hmm.
they came home from school and had a rough day. I wasn't necessarily there. I was, in some instances, I was physically here. In some, I wasn't, when I was working really late trying to do my job, other people's job, and make sure that what I was doing was the right thing because I was being
Right.
second guessed at every turn. Wasn't there for them when they had that time when I needed to be able to help them if they were struggling
Yeah.
with something, or I was
Yeah.
here sleep because I had worked a 24
You're
hour
exhausted.
shift.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
if neither one of those, mentally exhausted,
Yeah.
emotionally exhausted from having
Yeah.
to deal with these political games that they play at work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair because our
Mm-hmm.
children and our people suffer as
Yeah.
a result. We're not just parents, we're
Mm-hmm.
daughters, we're
Yeah.
sisters, we're
Yeah.
cousins, we're nieces, and so everybody suffers in
Yeah.
our community when we suffer. And
Absolutely.
to have to look at the fallout of that, to have to live with that guilt, and
Mm.
try to work hard to repair it. There's a
Mm-hmm.
saying that says, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It takes a
Mm.
whole lot more effort and work to repair something
Yes.
than it does to prevent it from happening in the first place. And it's so bad that we have to feel guilty about that, because I'm just I'm trying to support my family. I'm trying to make a living like everybody else.
Right.
But because of
Right.
what someone sees when they look at me because of my
Yes.
gender and my skin tone,
Yes.
I have to work so much more harder. I have to fight for myself. No one else is going to do that or advocate for me. I have to advocate. I'm the only advocate for myself. I'm the only advocate for my children. I'm the only advocate for
Mm-hmm.
what we're dealing with and what we're going
Mm-hmm.
through. It's
Mm-hmm.
very, very exhausting emotionally, mentally. Has a physical impact on our bodies,
Yes.
and a real, it stores trauma in our minds, in our brains.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
I went to the emergency room. I used to go to urgent care and emergency room at least twice a week at one point.
Oh no.
And yes, and I came across this great doctor, and I was trying to find out if he had a private practice, but he's a full-time ER physician. But he
Mm-hmm.
said, "Are you a did all the tests and everything?" He said, "Are you a counselor? Are you a therapist?" I said, "No, I work around that a lot, but no, I'm not." He said,
Mm-hmm.
"You exhibit signs of trauma that is usually related to listening to a lot of issues and problems, having to deal with a lot of trauma in some way, shape, form."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He said, you really need to do some trauma work. You need to get some therapy, and you need
Wow.
to, because it was having an impact on
That's
my body.
excellent that the medical doctor said that. That's
Yes,
excellent. So
yes,
in
I
terms of
know.
really advocating for your mental health and advocating for you getting therapy.
Yes. I was like, "Do you have a private practice? Can you be my doctor full time?" But yeah, and
That's excellent.
that's another
Yeah.
area. I won't get into it, but it's so hard for us to get the attention that we need in medical spaces.
Yeah.
And so to
Yeah.
be
That's
able
a
to run up on that, mm-hmm, it
It's a
is.
whole
But
nother conversation. And
yeah,
it's interesting too because you talked about like always having to try to prove your worth, right?
mm-hmm,
So prove that you're better, prove that you're doing a good job. That takes a toll on you. And you're thinking, I'm just trying to do my job. And
mm-hmm,
I'm just trying to do, and then I just want to be a mother. I want to be I want to be able to provide for my kids and be there for my kids. This job has become like the center of my existence.
mm-hmm,
And none of us want to work and have our jobs define us or be
mm-hmm,
all that we are, but it started creeping in and it started becoming that. And then you
mm-hmm,
also talked about that the doctor was asking you, hey, you do trauma work? Because it really shows us that these toxic work environments, it's not only what you experienced, Nancy, it's what you witnessed and what you also experienced from other people. So that vicarious experience of trauma, that also got in there with you too, right? And
absolutely.
so, Nancy, what was the point that you just said, I'm done with this? I'm done.
When they were talking about reorganizing my department, they had made the decision without me. Um, it was just a whole nother level of shenanigans. And I knew at that moment, either I'm going to leave, or everybody in this room is going to understand exactly how I feel. And I'm not in a place where I can control how that's going to come out, because I've
Okay.
given you all everything that I have.
And you try so hard to hold in the angry black woman, right? But you know
Yeah,
what? You
because
have the right to be angry. And so it puts us in a really awkward position where we have the right to be angry, but then we are mindful of how that's perceived. And so we just hold it in.
I couldn't do anything but smile. If I'm not talking like this, I'm a
Ooh,
threat. If I'm not
ooh,
being overly careful about how you feel and how you perceive me and how you're taking me, then I'm a threat. So I'm going to
yes,
give you all of this. And if I find myself in a position where I can't do it like this, then I'm going to probably need to leave, because you're going to then try to label me as the angry black woman. And I've
right,
had enough of you.
right. And not recognizing what you did to get me to this point, number one, right? And number two, Nancy, you talk about the impact of masking. So when we go into these toxic work environments, we often have to mask. So we have to hold in how we really feel for
Mhm.
the whole workday. And just think about the impact that has on us, that you feel like you're hiding who you really are. And
Mhm.
that is just, it's so sad. But you also talked about you left, right? Because you were like, I can't take this anymore. I need to be liberated. I did not sign up to be wearing a mask all the time, right? So as you left, can you talk a little bit in terms of what that process was like? So a lot of people stay at these toxic jobs because they're fearful, right?
Mhm.
Or their family tells them you need to stay in these jobs and you can't
Mhm.
leave and all that other kind of stuff, right? So what was that experience like for you when you knew it was time to go? What was it like for you?
This particular time, this last time,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't I wouldn't advocate for anybody. I don't suggest anybody do it the way that I did. I said I'll be gone in a week, and I got my purse and I left. I I was done. And the only reason why I gave them the week was because I wanted to wrap things up and give them all of the documents, give them
Mm-hmm.
all of the trainings, give them everything that they needed to continue,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not going the failure of this program is not going to be on me. I'm going to give you
Right.
what you need, but I'm done. I'm going to the house. And for
Wow.
that week, that's all that I did. I emailed the partners, I emailed everybody, I let them know that I was done, that I was leaving. I had a
Mm-hmm.
great time. I appreciated them. Here's everything you need to continue. And I went home on time. I had a great
Good.
last week.
Yeah.
I didn't overwork then. And I went
Right.
home and I slept for 6 months.
Woo.
I did.
Wow.
I did.
That
I
shows you
slept
how
for six
exhausted you
months.
were.
Oh, I was exhausted.
Oh man. Well,
I
I'm thankful
slept.
that you did take that time to get rest and
Mhm.
that you recognize that you deserved a better environment. So you're like, I'm done with this. I'm doing my own thing. And Nancy, you're a writer too, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
I'm wondering, in these work environments, was your writing ever questioned or challenged?
The crazy part about it is they would say stuff, but they knew I was, and I don't say this in a way to be arrogant at
Hmm.
all, but they knew I was the best at what I did.
Hmm. Hmm.
They wanted, they didn't really question my work or second guess my work.
Hmm.
They wanted to knock me down a peg. And
Ah,
I'm not that type of person. Like, I'm going to always, if something goes wrong, I'm not a blamer. I'm the first person to be like, okay, Nancy, did you do something wrong? Do
right,
you have this
right.
right? And that's why I was kind of second guessing my own work. Like,
Yeah,
why are they rejecting this? Why are they not listening to me? And I started
right.
to just keep making sure. But just by virtue of the fact that he said, oh, well, would you stay if we gave you an extra $8,000 a
Oh
year?
my
And I was
God.
like, what?
What you gonna do with that if you in the hospital? You know what I'm saying? Because this job is killing you. So what's interesting, Nancy, and the reason that I asked that question was I've had several guests and I've had clients and I've had experiences where in these workplaces, to even get these jobs, you clearly have to write very well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in these toxic jobs, there's these questioning of your ability to write or to communicate, which causes you to then second guess yourself, like you talked about
Mm-hmm.
before, even though you know you're a good writer. And there was this one example, I'm just going to tell it really briefly, one example of a situation in which, again, it was a vicarious experience. It didn't happen to me, but it happened to some other Black women. So, of
Mm-hmm.
course, it impacted me too, right? And
Right.
they talked about being with this person that I talked about being a toxic person.
Mm-hmm.
And they were with that person, another person. And the person said to them, no, 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 the people were there, the Black women were there. And so this person turns to the other person and says, yeah, that's why I think that, we should have our employees take a writing course. So she was talking about their writing because they had submitted something. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, because, like you need like a topic, like a topic statement and supporting comments. I mean, just really demeaning. These were like high level people, high level Black women, and just to discredit them in terms of the writing. And it's like, I'm not even going to say it to you. I'm going to say it about you while you're right there listening. And so that, And so that level of just disrespect, but feeling in many ways you can't say anything because this person is your so-called superior, right? And so those situations really let us know this is not a healthy work environment. This is not a healthy work environment. And so after the 6 months, Nancy, what was it that you did after the 6 months? After you were able to rest and regroup, what did you do? What was your healing? So a big part was getting away from that toxic environment because you can't heal where you got hurt from, right? So you can't heal there. So you left there, you got rest. What else was involved in your healing journey?
I had been contacted by them to find out if I would be interested in contracting with them. And it was tempting because part of my job was training. And so I had to totally separate from them because I had seriously considered it. But I found a way to continue the work that I was doing with them, to realize that the work that I did with them was my own intellectual property. And to find my independence in doing that work outside of them was really empowering. I had a business that I did side work, contracting work, and so I maximized that business. And that was empowering as well. I did therapy. I did not push it down. I was, at this point, Kamani, I was not strong anymore. I didn't feel strong anymore. I was broken. I was broken down. That's what they set out to do. That's what happened to me.
And that's just so disturbing to think that you go to a work environment to do a job, but there are people there who are literally trying to destroy you.
We don't want you to think that you're as good as you are. We don't want you to feel like you carry this position, even though you do. Because after I left both places, they were still contacting me for stuff.
Wow. Right. Now, if I'm so bad, why are you reaching out to me?
So, I mean, I did a lot of therapy. I did a lot of the trauma that I experienced in these two particular workplaces affected me physically.
I can't hear you.
I'm in therapy. Okay, I'm sorry. I had a call come through.
That's okay.
But I was in therapy with a mental health therapist. But I've also been in absolutely Olivia, threatened by your brilliance.
Absolutely.
And it's so sad because you need me. Like, why won't you just let me live?
And it was so crazy, Nancy, right? If they reached out to you, they hired you because of your brilliance, right? And because you could elevate the work that they're doing. So why would you try to destroy someone who can uplift the work? It makes no sense.
You know what I say? I always say this: be careful of small-minded people, because small-minded people will whittle an idea, an organization, a person, place, or thing down to the size of their mind, something that they can handle. That's what they're going to do.
That you need to do a shirt on that. Wow, that's my job right there.
You can't. I would rather hire someone who could embrace a bigger picture, who has vision and the ability to support people to do the work, and them that be mainly their entire skill set, before I get someone who has a particular skill set but a small mind and are going to destroy the idea, an organization, the people in it, all of these different things. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
It
But that's
doesn't make
why
any
a lot
sense.
of these organizations remain mediocre. They don't make
Yes,
the impact that they can because
yes.
the person who's leading the charge cannot um, be in the room with someone who knows more than they do about
How
anything.
dare
That
that?
makes
Right.
no sense. That makes
And
no
many
sense.
times that they're presenting a way that they know things and they don't. So they're imposters, right? I call them
Mm-hmm.
imposters. So pretending like, oh, I know this, I'm expert on this, and you really aren't. But it's okay that you don't know everything. But trying to like have this false sense that you do, and then you
Mm.
are intimidated by people like you, right? So people in terms of brilliance. So instead of allowing that brilliance to shine, I'm going to dampen it. I'm going to rain on it. I'm going to make you question yourself because I'm intimidated. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as opposed to them getting the help they need to address why they feel that way, they then lash out on you, right? So, I'll call that projected incompetence. I'm going to project my
Mm.
incompetence on you, right? And then we
Wow.
take it in. And so, Nancy, you talked about going to therapy, and that has been
Yeah.
so healing. And I
Mm-hmm.
also want to say this to you, Nancy, because I know I experienced this also, because I'm also a survivor of childhood trauma, that my workplace became a trauma trigger because it
Mm.
reminded me of different type of traumatic experiences I had, that sense of power and control and, belittling and all those negative things. It became a trauma trigger. And
Yeah.
so it's important for us to know that therapy is a place for us to heal, right? Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about healing. You're talking about healing. And it's so important for us to take that step for healing, right? And so I see a long comment in the chat. I don't know if I can understand it. For
Mm-hmm.
so long presented with fair opportunity that I can't read it. I'm sorry.
Let me
Can you
see.
read it, Nancy?
Let me see.
When people have repressed for so long, when presented with fair opportunity, the pace at which they excel is terrifying. Oh, yes. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I
Exactly.
agree.
Exactly.
I
Yes. So
agree.
small minds, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
remember, I don't know if you know the singer, I think his name is P.J. Morton, and he talked
Okay.
about I'm getting claustrophobic in your small mind.
Ah.
Right. Like
Wow.
I want to get out of here because
Yeah.
I can't take this small minded thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I know also that healing is a journey.
Yeah.
Just as I'm healing, you're healing. I want the audience to know that even when you go to therapy, it's an ongoing healing
Yeah.
process and to be open to that. So,
Mm-hmm.
Nancy, can you share with the audience as we're winding down, what are some of the services or products that you have available for people to access?
Well, I do program design, program planning, and so if there is something that you offer, I can help you to get it on paper per regulations that govern that particular sector or industry, best practice in that particular industry or sector, and also to get that on paper to help find those government contract opportunities or those grant program opportunities and to write it up for funding and submission. But more importantly, and I say more importantly, I'm more passionate about self-care and what it
Hmm.
takes to heal. I'm working
Yes.
on a book right now that should be out really soon. It's called "In All You Do, Remember You: A Guide in Self-Care."
Mm,
And
beautiful.
so what I found is in seeking the healing, like we talked about, not only did I need to get mental health therapy, but because the trauma had affected my body, I'm
Mm,
in physical therapy as well.
wow.
And
Hmm.
so I have to make sure that I'm very intentional about taking care of myself. At this
Yeah.
point, it's a means of survival
Yes.
because trauma can cripple you in your mind and your body. If
Absolutely.
you don't take care of yourself, we often we push on because we can, we think we can, but we push on because we have to get it done,
Absolutely.
type of thing, especially when you have to take care of, I got to take care of mom and them. I got to go check on
Hmm.
her. I got to make sure my nieces and my nephews got what they need to go back to
Hmm.
school. I need to take care of my kids. I need to make sure
Yes.
they're in a good place. And everybody
Yes.
gets taken care of except
Yes.
us. And
Yes.
that position can leave us it can rob us of our creativity.
Mm-hmm.
It can leave us broken, sick, crippled, and uninspired. And that's
And
the end
I
there.
would even say Nancy dying earlier, right? Because I read an article
Yes,
saying that
that's
Black
the end.
women are now dying at younger ages because of external stress, like
Mhm.
jobs, like toxic jobs. And I cannot tell you, part of what was like for me a wake up call too at, where I was is that so many Black women in my age category, Nancy, died.
Mhm.
And it was like cancer, stroke,
Mhm.
like all these things. And I was like, this is not by accident.
No.
I got to get out of here because these environments can kill us. These toxic work environments can kill us. And so
Yes.
you really centered yourself because as Black women, we're
You have
often told
to.
that we're not right. You got to take care of everybody else, like you just
Yeah.
said. And
Mhm.
so we have to center ourselves and take a moment. And we know that that's revolutionary. We know that we might get pushed back, but we got to do it if we're going to survive.
We have to do it. I had to be
Yeah.
okay with everybody else not necessarily being okay to the level that I thought they should be taken care
Yes.
of. I had to give them to God, and I
Yes.
had to take care of myself because, like you said,
Absolutely.
people die early. There is a
Hmm.
direct connection from our mind to our gut that affects our health and our body. And if
Yeah.
we don't take care of us, we're not going to be taken care of. And that's
Hmm.
the end. Ailments
Yes.
in our body manifest from what goes on in our mind, and just our sheer determination does not
Hmm.
make sure that we have to tune in to find out, am I okay? What's going on
Yes.
with me? Kamani, I
Yes.
figured out after leaving that job, in certain situations I would hold my breath. I didn't
Ooh.
find that out until I was on two different inhalers. I was on the
Oh
steroid
no.
inhaler and I was on a relief inhaler. And it was because
Wow.
I was holding my breath. I'm like, I can't breathe because
Wow.
you're holding your breath.
See, oh my God, not only are you masking, you cannot fully breathe.
Mm-mm.
So you couldn't even be healthy in that environment. And I can't stress enough how important it is for us as Black women to really recognize the impact these toxic jobs have on us physically, mentally, and spiritually. And many
Mm-mm.
times we say, I don't leave this job because of my benefits. And
Mm-mm.
there's so much fear, and we understand the fear. I don't want to discount the fear. The fear is there. But we have to know that there's choices and options available to us because we know that's important in trauma work. You have to
Mm-mm.
know that there's options available for you. And then number two, how was that benefit to you if you're dying earlier? So that's not
Right.
really a benefit.
It's
That's
not a
not a benefit.
benefit.
It's
Um,
harming you.
Peace and
It's harming
Progress
you.
said she just found out that she has breast cancer. And I'm so sorry to hear that. And it
Wow.
goes to your point, Kamani. I'm not really
Yeah.
sure if it was um something that was exacerbated by stress or trauma.
Mhm.
But if even if you don't have time to go check in on yourself
Yeah.
to make sure you're getting the care, that's a part of self-care as well. Then
Absolutely.
benefits aren't going to do us any good if it's treating an ailment that was preventable by because
Exactly.
we didn't have to deal with that stress or that trauma,
Exactly.
or
Exactly.
we couldn't better cope with it because that racial trauma is just around us. So I'm
All the
so
time.
sorry that's something that you're experiencing right now, and
Yes.
my heart truly goes out to you. And just make sure you take care of yourself at all costs. Period.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely. And that you have a circle of people around you to support you,
Yes.
right? Because healing is also important because we talked about, when these things happen to us, it impacts us, but also our families. And so it's
Yes.
important to also heal our families after we go through these experiences because they've been impacted deeply. And so, the hope is that anybody who's experiencing challenges, who's experiencing illnesses, that there's a family or there's people around to offer support. So my heart goes out as well.
Yes.
And Nancy, can you share just briefly with the audience, how will people contact you if they're interested in your services or how to get your book when it comes out? How would they contact you?
Well, you can reach me at nancywriterllc.com. That's probably the quickest way to reach me. I'm still developing at When It's Trauma. and forgive me for, I'm going to type this in, put it in the chat. So forgive me for not necessarily being able to use my IG. Well, I use it, but that's not the quickest way to contact me. My email address is the quickest way to reach out to me. I would
Can
love
you
to.
repeat the email again? Can you repeat the email again?
It's Nancy at NancyWriterLLC.com. I just put it in the chat there.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Nancy.
Yes, thank
So,
you.
yes, and we've had a lot of rich conversations offline about a number of topics. And so, I appreciate that you were open, to talk about your different experiences. And I know, and I'm so happy, Nancy, that you are so vocal and you call people out on stuff, right? So you don't just let things slide. You call people out. You are a true social justice warrior. And I'm so thankful to know you and to work with you. And I just appreciate everything you're doing. So I just want to tell the audience, again, thank you for tuning in. We've had another very rich conversation. And so my hope is that you will continue to tune in. We will have more conversations talking about Black women healing from toxic work environments. What I want you to really take away from this is not only are you not alone, but you're not a victim. You are a victor. The fact that we're here today and we're talking about it, we are victors. You do not have to have these toxic work environments define you. That's one thing. And the other thing is to know that healing is possible, right? Healing is possible. So it's not easy, but it is possible. We need to be mindful of that. And so again, we'll have more conversations. I will be transitioning at some point, talking more about Black women and joy and how do we reconnect to our joy, because these toxic jobs can rob us of our joy. So we need to reconnect to our joy, because that's so important too. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that a little bit down the line, and also let the audience know that I do have a job coaching program for Black women who are interested in leaving their toxic jobs, because as you've heard from Nancy and my other guests, this really takes a toll on us. And so we need to go through a healing process so that we are then in a better position to find the jobs that, really affirm us, or professions that affirm us, because sometimes it may not be a job. It might be doing something on our own, but we still need to heal before we are in the best position for that. So if you want more information about that, please go to my website, liftingasweclimbconsulting.com. And also, if you'd like to see the other videos that I've done with many other Black women talking about their healing journey in relation to toxic work environments, please go to my YouTube channel, Lifting Us with Climb Consulting Wellness Services. So again, thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
And again, thank you to everyone who has been here today to listen. For those of you who are listening later, again, please remember that healing is possible. There are always choices. There's always options, even though when it feels like it's not. There are. Okay? Yes. Okay, so have a good rest of your day.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.